Okay. We rolling?
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay. All right. We would like to say thank you to everyone who is joining us today on the Stay Strong, Live Well Masterclass Business Series. Very excited for our session. And this is about how you operate during times of crisis with our coach, Tasha M. Scott. I'm Cedric Varner with the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce. And this masterclass is brought to you by the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce Business Studio. Our topic for this session is the cooperation shift. Is that right, Coach?
That's it. You got it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Very excited. And in the way of announcements, before we get started and toss it to Tasha, we just want to let you know that the Chamber has been doing remote work in case you've been looking for us, and you can find us at our contact number on the website, montgomerychamber.com. We've still been trying to provide critical resources for you in the community. There are a number of there's a lot of resource information that is also listed on our website. And there's a special site that's dedicated to the COVID crisis, which is montgomerychamber.com/COVID-19. Of course, during this session, during this season, we know that leadership is different. Things are going to look different when we come back. And so this has been a fantastic series that we've had from Coach Scott, helping us to see things differently and do things differently. Of course, the book that we hope that some of you have had the opportunity to review and to purchase that Tasha is using for the series is LeaderShift by Dr. John Maxwell. Fantastic information in there. And of course, Dr. Maxwell is legendary and is also Coach Tasha's mentor. And yes. So we are going to turn it over to you. And just by way of intro, Tasha is dedicated to helping individuals and organizations maximize their potential. She is a servant leader with the ability to target growth, opportunities, and build strong teams. She is an independent executive director for the John Maxwell team, certified DISC consultant, and founder of Maximize Growth LLC and the 5-year-old Connected Women Win community and organization. She's a 3-time author, professional speaker, leadership trainer, executive coach, and workshop facilitator. And she takes pride in her professional endeavors, but in particular, loves being married to her husband and our friend, Morris Scott, for 22 years. And she's a mother to their teenage daughter, Mila. And so we're also happy to say, Tasha, we know that we have known you for 22 years. And so
yeah, and then some, honestly.
yes, a little bit more than that. So it's been fantastic. So we're just going to turn it over to you. And as you titled this, the cooperation shift, we're going to learn how to cooperate today.
Yes, thank you so much, Cedric, and welcome to everyone who either this is your first time joining me today or you have been to all of the sessions. I appreciate you being on this journey with me. And as Cedric mentioned, today we are diving into the cooperation shift. Can y'all believe that this is session number 4 and we have one more session on Thursday? And I hope that you've had an opportunity to get the replays if you had to miss any. Get this going. So I like to stay consistent, and we have been laughing at some memes just to lighten the mood with COVID-19. This theme today is all about homeschooling and education. So many of you remember Oprah Winfrey when she had her show and she gave away all these prizes. And I love this one. It says, you get to homeschool and you get to homeschool. Everybody gets to homeschool. And this one was funny too. It says, now that school is closed for a while, my kids will be taking AP chores, honors yard work, dishwashing 101, AP trash disposal, home economics, AKA make your own lunch. Can all the moms say amen? And honors laundry. Now, this one was funny too. How many of y'all remember Maury Povich and the infamous things that he would say? So this one was really cool. It said, "You said you love spending time with your kids, but the COVID-19 quarantine determined that that was a lie." No, we're not going to show our kids this. I just thought that was really funny. But we're continuing today with the Stay Strong, Lead Well Masterclass series. I broke down the word strong into an acronym: steadfast, teachable, ready, optimistic, never give up mindset, and generous. I said that in order to stay strong, we have to first get strong. And in order to get strong, we have to get honest. And so today is a continuation of this series. And Cedric did mention that this was inspired by my mentor's book, LeaderShift. If you haven't gotten the book, it's on Audible and it's available in print. It's a phenomenal book. But I've got some good news I want to share before we dive in. When I first pitched this series to the Chamber of Commerce, I had already pitched this to the Alabama State Department of Education as a course for educators. And I'm happy to announce that this course is now approved by the Alabama State Department of Education. What you all are getting is a snippet of the course. The course is actually a 13-week course or masterclass that I will have registration starting next week for educators, teachers, and principals to do virtually online and get professional learning unit credits through Alabama State Department of Education. So I'm so excited about that. So you all get a chance to experience a snippet of it. All right, so here's a review from last week. We talked about shifting to an abundance mindset, strengthening collaborations. And we talked about building a creative culture, making everything better, and that is we as leaders make everything better, making plans but looking for options, placing high values on ideas, seeking out and listening to different voices, taking risks, and learning to live on the other side of yes. Now, I'm going to be monitoring the chat during our time together, and I would love your engagement. So if there is something that stood out to you, or maybe you want to share something that you tried or anything like that, or maybe as I'm talking today, yours is going to be, "Oh my gosh, that was awesome," or "right on," or "amen," whatever that looks like for you. I appreciate your engagement. And again, I'm following right here on the chat. So today we are talking about the cooperation shift. And what does that mean? That means we're going to talk about improving teams with diversity of personalities. Now, I know diversity and inclusion is a hot topic in the workplace. It's been that for a while, but I want to approach diversity from a different perspective today, and that is through the lens of personalities. And that's how we're all going to learn how to cooperate, is we're going to learn how to appreciate and be challenged by different personalities. So today's focus, as we talk about diversity of personalities, we're going to talk about the advantages, we're going to talk about the barriers, and we're going to talk about what are the different types of personalities that we as leaders need to understand so that we can lean into this cooperation shift. So diversity of personalities says this: people different from us could make a positive difference in us, right? Here's an exercise that I want to take to the chat. So this, if you're on the phone, I'm showing a picture of a pile of rubber bands. This is an exercise that I do a lot of times when I'm doing my team buildings or team trainings or leadership development. So I want to just ask you, and you can post this in the chat, what are some ways, different ways that we can use rubber bands? I'm going to give you a minute to go to the chat and just type out just one. What are some ways that you can use rubber bands? Okay, so I see State Office says hold things together. Who else? What do you say? Okay, Bonnie says to bundle. Love it. Lakeisha says to bind things. Monette says to tie my frozen food bags together. Love that. That's creative. Alicia says to tighten. Stretch them. Shoot. Canal says to shoot. So in other words, it can be used as a weapon because you can shoot it towards something or somebody. I love that. I'm sorry. That was C Snell. Robin says to keep hair out of your face in a pinch. That's good. Anybody ever keep a rubber band on their wrist just to remind them of different things? There's many uses of this rubber band, but there's only one thing that's required in order for this rubber band to be used in all the different ways that you all just named. And there's so many others. Can anybody tell me, and somebody actually put it, let's see if y'all are paying attention. There's only one thing that's required. One thing in order for these rubber bands to fully function the way that they were supposed to. Yes, thank you, Monette. It must be stretched. A rubber band in its state, it's just that, it's a rubber band, but when you stretch it, there are so many different things that you can do with it, but stretching is required. And I want you to think about yourself today. In order for you to grow, in order for you to stay strong as a leader, in order for you to lead well, you are going to have to be stretched. Is anyone willing to be stretched today? If you are, let me know. Yes, in the comments. If you're not, you're going to anyway, but just humor me, okay? Robin says yes. Yes. Again, stretching is required for growth. Thank you, Alicia says yes. I'll take it. I'll take it. So let's do some stretching today, shall we? Because we want to stay strong so we can lead well. Thank you, Lakeisha. All right, so here's the thing. The advantage of team personality diversity. And remember, when I'm talking about diversity and inclusion today, I am putting it through the lens of personalities, okay? So here's the advantages of having a team that's personality diverse. One, you can fill the knowledge gap. The questions you have to ask yourself when you're trying to fill the knowledge gap is, what are you missing because of lack of personality diversity? Number two, you can fill the perspective gap. Who on your team is challenging your thinking? And remember, I said, if you're an independent contractor, your team could be your support. It could be your village. It could be those that are helping you to get off the ground with what you're doing. It's not necessarily always talking about employees. So I want you to expand your mind on that. And then fill the experience gap. What tools are missing in your tool belt so that others could add to your team? So I want you to think about this. These puzzle pieces are meant for us to stay connected because we all are wired for connection. We talked about that already, but we're going to talk about when we're connected, how do we cooperate? Because today is the cooperation shift, okay? So we talked about the advantages, but we got to acknowledge the barriers. And in order to acknowledge the barriers, we got to address that on the other side of COVID-19, we talked about we want to grow. We want to be in better positions. But during this pause time that we have to really understand what are the old habits that we've got to leave in COVID-19? What are the new habits that we have to address? And we're going to talk about these 7 barriers of team personality diversity so that we can be honest, we can get strong, and so we can stay strong and be the leaders that we're supposed to be. So the first barrier that we have to acknowledge is fear of conflict. How many of you all thought that conflict was a bad thing? And why do people fear conflict? I have an opportunity to go into organizations and teams a lot. And sometimes when they bring me in, it's because conflict has already been, it's been present. But why is it that people fear conflict? And more than that, why do y'all think people avoid conflict? Will you let me know in the chat? What are your thoughts on this? People fear it or people avoid it? And that's more often than not. Why do you think? State office says, I don't want to hurt other people's feelings. Robin says, I have avoided conflict to my detriment. Bonnie says, makes an uncomfortable working situation. This is good. And these answers that I've gotten so far, that's honest right there. A lot of times people would rather go into avoidance mode, or they just fear it altogether because they don't want to rock the boat. Lakeisha says, don't know how to do it healthy. And Alicia says, fear of retaliation. And if we could get to the root of fear, there's an acronym for fear, and it's false evidence appearing real. The reason why we avoid conflict and we are afraid of conflict is we don't understand conflict. So let's talk about this. Lakeisha says, not knowing how to do it healthy. So let's look at what is unhealthy conflict. We got to know what that looks like so that we know what healthy looks like. And again, today we're talking about the cooperation shift. We have to be able to know how to cooperate, but we can do that when we have teams that are diverse in personalities. So unhealthy conflict, this is what it looks like. When people are engaged in unhealthy conflict, they take the differences personally. Did y'all know that different does not have to be wrong or mean wrong? It's just different. But in an unhealthy conflict, people take it personally as if the rejection is against me or against my work ethic or my work product. Or unhealthy conflict dumps personal baggage, searches for retaliation. Somebody actually said that here, results in hurt. This is one of the number one reasons why people don't like conflict, is because there's casualties. People get hurt if it's done unhealthy. Seeks quick conclusions, holds back from the conversation. That's that passive aggressiveness. The feelings are there, the emotions are there, but people go into that avoidance and they don't want to acknowledge it. Values self above solutions, defends their territory, or bottom line, just makes the team worse. And we don't want that, do we? So let's talk about what healthy conflict looks like. I was in a marriage conference one time, and the person said, conflict is the price that we pay for intimacy. Taken in another way, conflict is the price that we pay for cooperation. In other words, it's not how to avoid it, it's how do we now do it in a healthy way so we can cooperate and be productive and progressive. So healthy conflict sees differences impartially, desires to know the person, searches for resolution, results in helpfulness, seeks understanding. Healthy conflict becomes part of the conversation. In other words, being solution focused, not problem focused. Values solution above self. Opens up new territory, and y'all, at the end of the day, makes the team better. Today, I'm going to give you some thought-provoking questions for each one of these barriers. And you don't have to put this in the chat, but I want to give this to you to think about when it comes to your teams. What are the areas as a team are you afraid to discuss? Again, this is a thought-provoking question because I just showed you there is a difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. And if we lean more towards the healthy conflict, then we don't have to be afraid of those areas. We just have to know how to come together. And it's okay to agree to disagree. We don't have to think the same. That's the personality differences. As long as we can get on the same page, as the goal is the cooperation. The goal is a united team, a united company. The goal is the mission itself. But what are the areas on your team are you afraid to discuss to get there? The other one is insufficient personal network. We are talking about the cooperation shift so that we can have personality diverse teams, but I'm speaking to you today through the lens of a leader. So this insufficient personal network is meant for us to really look at ourselves. But in order to take inventory of our network, it's going to require some things. It's going to require humility. It's going to require intentionality. It's going to require energy. It's going to require time, and it's going to require love. And you might say, love of what, Tasha? Love of your purpose, love of your calling, love for people. If we're going to stay strong and lead well, we got to love people, y'all. And we got to love people that are different from us, especially when it comes to personalities. Here's a thought-provoking question. Which requirement do you need to give attention to during this season while we've been given the power of pause? Which one stands out to you the most? Now, you don't have to post it in the chat, but I do want you to answer this for yourself. Is it humility? We talked in one of our previous sessions about, in order for a leader to stay strong and lead well, we've got to let people in. We've got to let people know that we need them. Intentionality. We're not going to grow on accident. We're not going to get strong and stay strong on accident. We've got to be intentional about this. We've got to make up our minds that this is who we want to be, and this is what we desire for our teams, for our companies, for our lives. Energy. It's going to take effort and energy in order to do this. And yeah, it's going to take time, because Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is building a personality diverse team. It's going to take time. And again, that whole thing of love, it's going to require loving people, especially people that are different from us. Here's another one. Unwillingness to deal with prejudice. Prejudge. And again, y'all, I am talking about personality diversity. Okay, so what does it mean to prejudge? It means to form a judgment on an issue or person prematurely and without having adequate information. How many times, and we're going to talk about the personality types, but how many times have we prejudged someone to say that maybe they were impatient, or maybe they took too long to do something, and we judged their personality and labeled them because of their actions? Thought-provoking question. Got a lot of these today, y'all. What prejudices do you possess that are keeping you from connecting with people, and that's just say unlike you, and diversifying your team's personality? How are you prejudging? Where are you prejudging? The other one is arrogance. This was in the book, LeaderShift, and I wanted to read this to you. The plight of the arrogant. Sometime when you're feeling important, sometime when your ego's on bloom, sometime when you take for granted you're the best qualified in the room, sometime when you feel that your going would leave in an unfillable hole, just follow this simple instruction and see how it humbles your soul. Take a bucket and fill it with water. Put your hand in it up to the wrist. Pull it out, and that hole that's remaining is a measure of how you'll be missed. You may splash all you please when you enter. You can stir up the water galore, but stop, and you'll find a minute that it looks quite the same as before. The moral in this quaint example is to do just the best that you can. Be proud of yourself, but remember, there's no indispensable man, and I added, or woman. And this was a passage written by Saxton White Kessinger that was in the book. So John Maxwell says, as a leader, it is my responsibility to encourage and engage in conversations that draw out different perspectives. That's our responsibilities, leaders. And he says, I don't need or want my team members to parrot back to me what I think or to try to guess what I want. I want to know what they think. I want my team to take me on when they see differently. I want them to challenge me just like I challenge them. It is only then that we get the most out of one another. And y'all, the only way that this can happen is if we embrace the possibilities of having a personality diverse team. And I love what he says here. I want them to challenge me just like I challenge them. There's a leadership lid that each company has. Our companies will never grow beyond the leader. Our dreams will never go beyond the leader. There's a lid right there. And if we want to build teams that are productive, that are progressive, that are world class, we've got to start this from the inside out. And we've got to challenge them, yes. But at the same time, I think it's okay to give them permission to challenge us too. There's no greater measure of accountability than having a leader that is open to this kind of challenge as well. So, thought-provoking question: who on your team has untapped potential or strength that could add value to you and or the team? Do they know it? Do you see it? I love this picture of this little kitten looking at their reflection in the mirror. There might be some people in your circle. Remember, we talked about the inner circle and the outer circle last week. And I want to challenge you on your support team. I want to challenge you on with your employees, your independent contractors, your village. Is there someone that you are already in proximity with that maybe you've been looking at them as the kitten, but maybe on the inside of them is the lion or lioness, that they have strengths that you need to grow, that your team needs to grow. But maybe if you just appreciate it and acknowledge their diverse personality, that wow, who would show up if you embrace this? The other one is personal insecurities. If you have insecurities, especially those driven by others' strengths or differences, start working on them. If you don't, your leadership will harm, not help the team. I got to go back to the rubber band analogy. Like I mentioned, in order for that rubber band to be used in all the capacities that you all mentioned and more, it has to be stretched, right? And so just consider this an area that we can stretch. During this time, we can pause, we can self-reflect and ask ourselves, are there insecurities that I have that maybe I've been the common denominator for what's holding my business back or what's holding my team back? The best antidote that I've ever found for personal insecurity is to think about helping other people and putting them first. The thing about insecurity is, as a leader, we're human. We are. We're human. We bleed just like everybody else. We feel just like everybody else. And did you know that just like you can sniff out an insecure person or an unconfident person, do you know that your team can actually sense that as well? And sometimes the way it comes out is it's overcompensated in other areas. So thought-provoking question is, how can you overcome your insecurity by focusing on others? And how do you do that? Helping other people to shine, to operate in their strengths. Because when they do, guess what? Those areas that we need improvement, remember the SWOT analysis, those areas that we need to grow ourselves, their strength just might compensate for our weaknesses. And that is a great example of a personality diverse team, because at the end of the day, everybody wins. So it's not about my weaknesses showing or my insecurities showing. It's who will I allow to come in and help me. But first, I've got to deal with them by acknowledging them and getting help for them. So the other one is failing to be inclusive. When people are on your team but don't feel like they belong or contribute, they disconnect. Disconnected people don't bring their best gifts or talents to the table. This picture right here, this person holding the pen, could represent a team member who feels like their ideas don't matter, who feels overlooked. And I know she's got a smile on her face, but she might be that kitten really who's the lion, who's saying, I know I have something to offer, but maybe she doesn't feel like she's allowed to or he's allowed to. And so they could be withholding their strengths. They could be not showing up and performing the way that they could. And we could be the ones like really saying, I need you I want you to show up. I want you to give your all. But if they feel disconnected, they're not going to want to. So thought-provoking question, where do you need a change in inclusion of different personalities to lead your team? But there's hope, my friends. For every problem, there is a solution. I want to go to the chat here and just check in. Anybody, was there anything that I just shared that stood out to you? And remember, if we're going to stay strong, we've got to get strong. And if we're going to get strong, we have to be honest. And I believe at the end of the day that you showed up here because you said, I want to stay strong so I can lead well, so that during this time, during the power of the pause, I want to do what it takes to seal the cracks in my foundation. I want to do what it takes to course correct so that on the other side of this, not only am I stronger, but my team is stronger. My business is stronger. And this is a great example of conflict, because there might have been some things that I shared that you say, yeah, I actually need to deal with that or get it right. And so here's the beauty is you don't have to put your head in the sand. You don't have to avoid it. If anything, you can just acknowledge it and get the help. And sometimes help may come in the form of a team member. But here's some things that I just said. Removing the barriers to personality diversity. Just a recap. Fear of conflict, insufficient personal network. And as I'm reading these, I would love to hear or read in the chat, do any of these speak to you? Fear of conflict, insufficient personal network, unwilling to deal with prejudice, arrogance, and I spelled that wrong, personal insecurities, and failing to be inclusive. One of the hardest jobs as a leader is not in how we lead others, but it's in how we show up and lead ourselves. And one of the best things that we can do is to acknowledge any of the areas right here that are barriers so that we can, again, get strong and stay strong. And we can learn, just like the title of this book is called LeaderShift by Dr. John C. Maxwell, we can learn to LeaderShift to diversity and inclusion. And here's 3 ways that we can do this. We can create a culture of sharing. Does your team know that they can share? Does your team know that their ideas matter? Do they know that they're important or they're needed or necessary? Number 2 is broaden your perspective on the diversity of personalities. And then number 3 is provide solid leadership for diversity of personalities in order for it to be effective. Thank you, Rolinda, for sharing this on failing to be inclusive. The other way that we can LeaderShift and grow strong in this is educate ourselves on the differences. We're talking about how to shift into that cooperation shift, or lean into the cooperation shift, so that we can improve our teams and have personality diverse teams. But I want to kind of lean into now, in order to do that, we've got to educate ourselves on what are the actual differences. One of the things that I love administering is the DISC assessment. Have any of you ever taken the DISC assessment before, or any personality assessment? Maybe it wasn't DISC, maybe it was Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram, or maybe you've taken the ones with the colors or the animals. In the chat, will you let me know, have you ever taken an assessment for yourself to understand your own personality? And you can just say yes, and if you have, which one have you taken? Okay, and while I'm waiting on the responses to come through, one of the ones that I love is the DISC personality assessment. For me, the DISC really leans into that communication piece. It really helps you to show up and not only be self-aware for yourself, but also it shows people how to communicate with you, but it also teaches you how to communicate with others so that you can lean into that cooperation shift. Lakeisha says, it's been a long time, can't remember which one. Monette says she's taken the DISC. Aquanetta said Myers-Briggs and DISC. Shauna says Myers-Briggs. Cal says the animal one and the DISC. And then Robin says a couple, Myers-Briggs and the 4 colors one too. Okay, so one is not better than the other. They're just different. So I'm going to explain a little about the DISC today. DISC actually is an acronym for DISC. So if you'll follow along here, D is dominant, I is influencing, S is steady, and C is compliance. If you notice the top 2 letters, D and I, those are your outgoing personalities. A D personality is outgoing when it comes to tasks, but an I personality is outgoing when it comes to people. And then on the bottom, you have your reserve personalities. You've got the S and the C. They are the reserve personalities. S is reserved when it comes to, they're people oriented, but they're more reserved. And then the C is reserved when it comes to the task. And one of the things that I love doing when I go into my organizations is helping them to become aware of the different personalities that are on the team so that everyone can learn how to understand each other, how to communicate with each other, and how to get on the same page. So with this personality diverse team, everybody's refocused again on the mission so that you can move forward. And I always say the one who's the most self-aware is the one who has the responsibility. And a lot of times that is the leader. So what do you think it would do for your organization to understand all the different personalities? You have to approach this from a glass half full mindset. If you understood all the personalities that you're dealing with, I'm not saying it's going to take away conflict. It's going to show you how to approach conflict in a healthy way because you know who you're dealing with. So let's break these down. The D is the dominant one. This is 3% of the population. And I'll be honest, my personality is this one right here. My dominant personality is D. And here's the thing. We all have blends of these personalities. It's just that we have some that are stronger than others. So if your focus is primarily results, you're likely D-wired. I like to say as Ds, our love language is results. If you or someone on your team is a big vision thinker, somebody who is wired for results, maybe there's somebody on the team who it's bottom line. Like they don't care for all the details. They don't care for all the in between. They see a goal, they see a vision, and in their mind, they're already at the finish line. Chances are you're dealing with a D personality, or you may be that yourself. The I is the influential person. Again, people focused. They are 11% of the population. I's are my party waiting to happen people because they just naturally love people. They gravitate towards people. Influencing styled individuals motivate others to achieve. They are the ones who know no strangers. There are talkers in the group. So if you or somebody on your team, maybe you come to a meeting and either you or that I personality, they actually want to start the meeting off by talking about how was your weekend, or how's the family, or whatever. Chances are their I personality, because again, they get their energy off of people. And notice the yellow, there are sunshine, and we need them. We need all these personalities. Or maybe the S personality resonates with you, because S personalities, like I mentioned, they are people focused. They are 69% of the population for a reason. They are the most team focused, the most family focused. They are the peaceful ones in the group. They are the ones out of all the personalities that avoid conflict, because conflict robs them of their peace or their steadiness. And so they're the ones that will also be the quietest one in the room, especially in a team meeting, because they're processing and they're feeling the room. So steady styled individuals are loyal, patient, and trustworthy. And again, they're 69% of the population for a reason. So if you find yourself in that place where you're always concerned with just making sure everybody's happy, everybody's getting along, you're steady, you like consistency, you like just the ease of routine, you might be steady, or your team member might be steady. Or our C compliant people. This is 17% of the population. If you insist on efficiency, you might be C wired. These are our detailed oriented people. They're task oriented, they're detail oriented. They are our compliant ones, our rule followers. They're the ones that they thrive on the facts, the figures. They need the data. They need to know the plan before they can proceed. They're the ones that are going to move from A to B, and they're going to make sure they follow that line to get to Z. There are no shortcuts because they need to make sure that everything they're doing is accurate. If you are wired like that, chances are your dominant or your main one is a C personality. I will tell you, oh, the percentage, thank you for asking, Robin, is 17% of the population. My accountant and my bookkeeper, and I have one other team member, they're C compliant. I absolutely love it. Now, this is a D speaking, because as a D, I'm a visionary and I need people with me who are going to be the detail, the analytical ones, especially my bookkeeper and my accountant. I need them to be compliant. I need them to think like this. Okay. So imagine again, if you knew the personality of everyone on your team, if you knew going into it, into a meeting, into a week, how do you think that would change for you? How do you think it would improve? Again, glass half full perspective here. How do you think it would improve your team by having everybody at the table? I'll tell you, for my team that I'm currently building, I have each one of these letters. I'm the D, I have an I have an S, and I have a C. And I appreciate that they are not me. I appreciate that they're different from me. I am leaning into the cooperation shift, because at the end of the day, if I can surround myself with people that are different from me, people that are not afraid to be themselves, people who can tap into their strength, all that does for me is make me a better leader. It helps the business, the vision, and it just makes my world and theirs go round in a beautiful way. It's like the colors represented here, the rainbow. It's wonderful. But if I ever get to a place where I'm saying, I just want D's around me, or I just want I's, then what I'm doing is I'm shortchanging myself. And again, this is leaning into the cooperation shifts. So here's a little fun fact about all the different personalities and how we approach different things. So here's an example if we're going somewhere. So the D also, it's dominant, but it also stands for driver. We'll say, I'll drive, we'll get there faster, I know the way. D's are notoriously known for getting to things as quick as possible, skipping the shortcuts. We're the ones that we don't follow the rules, we don't read the rules. We're just looking for the results. We're looking for the bottom line. Eyes are the ones who are going to get really excited because they're going to be like, road trip. Oh my gosh, yes. They're going to be excited because they're going to be thinking about all the people that are going to be on the trip, all the people that they get to meet along the way. And they're not going to want to drive. And because they're going to be like, I just want to, enjoy. And they might even want to take the scenic route. And I love here it says, I have no idea where my keys are. I'm laughing at that because we need them. We need the balance of that, but we also balance each other out. My primary personalities are D and I. The more structured part of me is a D, but the more people part of me is the I. We need both. S's say, as long as we get there safely, buckle up everyone. They're the chill, cool personality. They're the ones that are easygoing. They're also the ones that make great mediators because they're easy to talk to. And that S personality, they're going to have some kind of direction, some kind of roadmap. They're going to say, I pulled up the directions just in case, because that's their personality. And again, we need all of these personalities on the team. So looking at this, are you starting to see your team? Are you starting to see the things, the people that you need in order to make your team diverse so that you can lean into that cooperation shift? Self-awareness is the gift that we give ourselves. It's important for us, in order to get strong, we got to stay honest. But in order to, well, let me say that again. In order to stay strong, we've got to get honest and we've got to get strong. And one of the best things that we could do for our businesses, for our teams, is to really lean into our own self-awareness. That's the gift that we give ourselves. When we can understand ourselves, then we know who we need to surround ourselves with. And when we can discover another person's communication style, it's a great way to build strong partnerships and strong teams. And at the end of the day, all of us want to stay strong so we can lead well. And today, as we talked about the cooperation shift, I wanted to share some things with you to really challenge us, challenge our mindsets, challenge where we are, so that we can ask ourselves, how do I need to lean into this thing so that at the end of the day, not only am I stronger, but my team is stronger. And I want to acknowledge some questions here. And if you have a question on anything that I shared, please don't hesitate to ask. But Robin says, how do S and C people start a business? So Robin, any of these personality types can be leaders. Any of these personality types can be business owners. It's not to say that just because one is naturally wired in that direction that others can't. Again, this is just helping us to understand ourselves in that self-awareness that I talked about. So with an S personality, I mean, I've seen leaders in all of them. You can most definitely start a business. Sometimes it's just a matter of who we're willing to partner up with to help us with those areas that maybe we're not natural or we're not strong. I'll use myself as an example. Even though I'm a D. So I know that for me to function, I need people around me who are detailed. So for me, I'm going to lean into that C personality a lot more because that's my natural balance. They are task oriented as well, but they also help me to get the jobs done. But I'm not ignoring the I or the S personality. I need them too because they help me to lean into the people side of me. So it's possible for the S and C to start a business for any of them. It's just we've got to know our strengths, know our weaknesses, understand our opportunities, understand the threats, and know who to surround ourselves with. I hope that answers the question, Robin. And if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to chime in on the chat. Robin says, dominant people have their own ideas. Would they join others? A self-aware dominant person will, Robin, because I think it's going back to the healthy versus the unhealthy. That's why it's important for each one of us to be aware of ourselves first, and then we can be aware of who we need to lean on around us. It's not impossible for dominant people to have help. It's more important for the dominant people to become self-aware. Again, I'll keep using myself as an example. The dominant person in me, when I'm dealing with my team members or even with my clients that are different from me, I have to understand that everybody is not wired the way that I am. Everybody's drive is not on 1,000 like maybe mine is when it comes to getting things done or accomplishing things. Whereas I'm like Speedy Gonzalez, I might need to surround myself with people who can help temper that in me. But at the same time, my dominance may help bring the structure that they need to not just stay in preparation mode. We all need each other. So it's not impossible. It is not impossible. It's just that we have to be self-aware. And that's the key right there. And I think sometimes what we've seen, which is why we avoid the conflict, is we've seen dominant people or passive people who haven't been self-aware. And so because of that, it backfires on whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Lakeisha says, that was good. That helped me to realize that even though I am not a dominant person, I still have the ability to lead. Yep, that's right. like I mentioned, every personality type can make a great leader. What we have to do is be ourselves. We have to lean into our strengths and not try to be somebody else. If this dominant personality, me, tries to become an S personality, chances are I am going to frustrate myself and I'm going to shortchange people because I'm not operating in the strength that I was made to operate in. And an S personality can be very steady, easygoing, and just because they're not aggressive when it comes to tasks or things like that, their strength is the fact that they are nurturers and they can lead from that strength. Every strength has the ability to be progressive. Leaders, it's just a matter of us understanding ourselves and being self-aware. So this whole masterclass series was all about staying strong, y'all. And most of us are either in a place where we have a team that we need to improve our team. That's the room that we all have in common, is the room for improvement. Or you're in a place where you may be at the beginning of this, where you're needing to develop your team. If that's you, you can still take what I'm sharing today. And for you, you actually have an advantage, because now with you becoming self-aware, you can build your team in a way that many of us, we had to go through the bumps and the trials and the oops and the mistakes, but it's not too late for either one. So stay strong, improve your team so you can lead well by showing others how to appreciate and cooperate with different personalities. As I mentioned, the diversity and inclusion that I'm talking about today is not necessarily about all the other diversities that we think of immediately. This is one that I feel like that we need to lean into more, because if we can surround ourselves with different personalities, that helps us, but it helps them, and it helps the bottom line mission as well. So Keisha asked, how can you take the test? I am certified in the DISC personality assessment. Dr. John Maxwell is my mentor. I'm certified on the team as an executive director. So this is one of the tools that I use when I'm going into organizations. If you're interested in taking the test, reach out to me. My email is here on the screen. If you're on the phone, it's Tasha at tashamscott.com. In fact, I use this tool in my trainings. I use this tool when I'm coaching, and that's either life coaching or executive coaching. I love to start here first because it helps people to become self-aware. When they become self-aware, it helps me to understand their learning style. It helps me to understand their communication style. And this is a starting point that I use a lot of times in my coaching and in my trainings. And I will say this, in my own team as well. So do we have any questions or ahas? I'll ask Cedric to come back, and maybe you have some questions, Cedric, as well, or ahas.
Okay. All right. Well, Tasha, this is just fantastic information. This is a master class. So I've just been making notes the whole time. So please, anybody that's in the chat, thank you so much for tuning in, for being with us today. Please feel free to talk to the coach. She says she started by.
Yeah, Cedric, what was one of your ahas?
Well, I like a lot of things that you said today. One of the things that you talked about in the session is about to use this time during the COVID-19. I like the word that you used, the power of the pause, to kind of reorient, to reset, make sure that you come out of this period different than we went in.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And that's the perspective of glass half full. You know, some people can look at it and think this is the worst of times, but it also is an opportunity in disguise.
Yeah, and you also mentioned several things about being intentional, intentional about our growth, and being intentional about developing as a leader during this time. Just a real a great. I like your definition, and if you can just kind of refresh us on that, your definition of diversity and inclusion.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna go back to that slide. It was at the beginning.
It was really
'Cause,
good.
yeah, most of the time, like I mentioned, people, when they think about diversity and inclusion, they're thinking about race, or they're
Right.
thinking about gender, sex, all of the different things, because we're all different.
Right.
But I live by this, that people different from us could make a positive difference in us. And I would say a lot of times the conflicts that are underlying are because that different personality did something in us. Maybe it rubbed us the wrong way, or maybe it offended us in a certain way. But if we can look at it from a positive stance, we can see there was something about them, yeah, but it was something that struck a chord in us that maybe we need to grow or we need to learn.
Very good. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Now, did you make the statement of self-awareness is the gift we give ourselves? Did you say that?
It was either something I read or something I.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you did see that. That was one of the slides I had here, and that actually came from the training that I do. I use this in training.
Okay.
About self-awareness, because
right.
when I go into organizations, sometimes an organization will bring me in and they'll say, hey, can you motivate our team, or can you whatever with our team? And I'll always come back with, that might work for maybe 10 minutes, they'll get hyped, but at the end of the day, I would like to talk to the leaders and help the leaders understand themselves, so that when I'm gone, they can still keep the momentum going. But that starts with self-awareness. A self-aware leader is a powerful leader.
That's very good. Very, very good. Very good. Very good. Well, I like that. And I like the fact that you gave us some information about the this training, and you let our viewers know that you are certified to do this training, and this is really good for self-awareness.
Yes. It's beautiful when you can see a leader wake up to themselves, because when they're energized, the byproduct is they now get to pay it forward for their teams. And like I mentioned about that leadership lid, a business will never grow beyond the leader. A business will never, that's it. It's the ceiling.
That's right.
A leader has more influence than they realize. That's why it's important for us to be self-aware. Excellent.
Well, we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Tasha, this has been fantastic. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today for this session, this series, the Stay Strong, Live Well series with our coach, Tasha Scott. I want to encourage you to tune in next week. Our facilitator and our host for the chamber portion of this will be Jenna Miniard, who is our Chief Engagement Officer. She'll be back with us for this final session next week. And so we've been really enjoying it. I want to encourage you to reach out to Tasha for anything that you may need. Of course, the Chamber's mission, again, is to connect people to people and people to resources. Please continue to go to montgomerychamber.com for any update on the COVID situation that you may need. I want to thank the participants. Thanks to everyone for signing on to this today. And so, Tasha, we're going to get ready to go. Any particular closing remarks that you'd make? But I want to say this, Tasha. I saw in the book, and for those who get a chance to get the book, I saw a quote as we close from John Maxwell that said, "What you think about yourself determines the investment that you will make in yourself." And so what people have been doing today is making an investment in themselves with this class.
That's right. And time is a commodity. Absolutely. So thank
Excellent.
you. I want to clarify, Lakeisha asked, was it next week or this week? It's this week. The last class is on Thursday, this
Oh, okay.
Thursday,
Okay.
the
Good correction.
23rd.
Excellent.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Good correction.
And I just want to say thank you to the Chamber for embracing this partnership. Thank you for saying yes. I'm a proud Chamber member, and anytime that I get an opportunity to collaborate and share resources, I'm so excited. But I thank you all for saying yes to this.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tasha. We're going to let you go and let everyone go back to the areas that they have to, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.